You can never make me feel envy when I know deep down you feel empty. That's why you overcompensating. Your moves don't match what you be saying. I wanna stay, but you be playing. How many times I gotta say this? What's up, gang? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Janique. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If this is your first time joining me, make sure you lock into my channel by clicking on that subscribe button and also by clicking on the notification bell. That way you never miss an episode of anything that it is that I do here. If you are a returning subscriber, I appreciate you so much for trusting me with your content. Thank you for tuning in once again. Today we're going to be talking about choosing to be a single parent. Okay, so if you are a single parent, you're thinking about becoming a single parent, or you even know a single parent, make sure you stick around to the end of the video. I have some great information for you, so let's go ahead and hop into it. So I have this idea because I had a young lady actually comment on my video telling me that she was thinking about relocating to Houston, but she had a child and she was a little fearful about moving a child away from their father. So she asked me to talk about it a little bit. And I'm not going to get too personal in the video, so I'm going to leave a lot of stuff out. But I want to kind of really address being a single parent. You know, parenting, I'm not going to say it's easy, but at the end of the day, if you have the mindset that every decision you make is for the betterment of the child, then any decision you make will be for bettering your child. You have to think of your child first, because your child is the future. Whatever you do to mold the child, whatever situations you put your child in, whatever you expose your child to, is going to create your adult child. It's going to totally mold who they're going to become in the future. So I understand being apprehensive about moving a child away from their father. I completely get it. I want to start off by saying that I come from a two-parent household, okay? For all the naysayers out there, all the people who may think something about me, I come from a two-parent household. My mom and my dad were in my home the whole time I was growing up. Through me graduating high school and going off into the military, my parents were together. My dad chose my mom out of all the women he was dealing with, and they had two children together, me and my little sister. But I have half sisters and half brothers as well, so my dad was still out here, but he chose my mom. He was the one my mom settled for. And, you know, she was the one that he decided he wanted to, you know, that he wanted to, you know, commit to, essentially. So I remember growing up, and I said in the previous video, my parents' relationship was super toxic. I'm not going to get too deep into it because it's their business and it's their story to tell. But ultimately, I grew up not knowing what a good example of a relationship should be. I didn't know how relationships should go. I thought relationships meant that you stay together even though you hate each other. Stay together, especially if you got kids together. You're going to stay together because you that's your person. That's who I thought God gave you. I thought God only gives you one person. You don't meet people every day. Like, that's all I grew up thinking. So imagine my surprise when I grow up and realize you do meet people every day. You can go online and meet somebody right now if you'd like to. So it's not as hard as it used to be in the past. But growing up, seeing my mom get put through so many things at the hands of my father, like seeing it firsthand, hearing it, like watching it, being a witness to their situation, all I could think about growing up was like, I don't want to end up like my mom. I don't want to end up like my mom. I don't want to end up like my mom. And not to discount my mom or discredit my mom or say anything about her, because it's her choice. That was her journey she decided on. But if I had, oh, you heard that sound? If I had kids, especially daughters, I would want them to grow up in such a positive environment. That's all I used to think about growing up. Like, why can't we go to a positive environment? My mom thought she was doing us a favor by staying with my dad, but I never saw it like that. I was like, I would never. That's all I would grow up thinking, like, I could never be this person, like, who just let this stuff happen. And it led to us not respecting our mom as much because we saw her go through a bunch of things, right? So it's something that was instilled with me. Some kids want to be just like their parents, and some kids want to be the opposite, and I grew up wanting to be the opposite. So when I did graduate high school, go into the military, return back home, and I started working and I met somebody, you know, I didn't expect it to go as far as it went. I really didn't know what I was in it for. I was just having fun at the time, really, but I wanted a man to commit to. You understand? So this is something I've taken with me my whole life. I always thought like one man is for you, like, because that's how I grew up. My dad and my mom were together, so I'm thinking like there's only one man for you. I never saw my mom sleeping around. I never saw my mom with a bunch of men. I never saw my mom with any men, but my dad. So this is what I'm programmed to think. You stick to one man. So my parents were super strict, so they weren't letting us go out. I couldn't go to the clubs or anything until I graduated high school, and I was away from my parents. Like, that's when I started clubbing. So my mom never drank. So these are things I grew up thinking, you know, that's how people operate. And it's stuff that was instilled in me. So when I met my son's dad, we went through a toxic cycle, just like I saw my parents going through growing up. And I was so pressed to, you know, try to make him see that I was the one. I wasn't even taking a look at him not even being the one for me. I was just trying to prove to him that I'm the one. But I wish my confidence, even the wisdom that I had, was as much as I had right now, because it's like I would have known immediately that he wasn't the guy for me. But I was blinded, you know, by love and or a situation or what he was doing for me at the time. And, you know, I didn't think there were so many people out in the world, honestly. Like, that's just what I was going into it as. I didn't really notice, or I didn't really know for sure that he was not the guy for me until I gave birth. Once I gave birth, in the hospital, I remember thinking like, oh my God, I made a huge mistake, because reality doesn't sit in until you have a kid. So this is what I want to say about children. Like, I know, you know, society glorifies casual sex. Society glorifies just, you know, random sex, hookups, you know, raw sex, all kind of things. But I know the consequence can be dire. To have to carry another human being with you, you know, in addition to the child, for 18 years, somebody who you dislike is the worst thing you can put yourself through, honestly. It's the worst thing you can put yourself through. So if you don't have any kids, hear what I'm saying. Before I had a son, I never thought about asking my partner about their parenting styles or how they even grew up, really. I never cared about how they grew up. You know, we may have discussed it briefly, but to really dive deep into your childhood and see what kind of things affected you, or even to look deeper beyond your actions and see what your actions even mean to tell me about your childhood. I never used to think like that. Like, I'm so glad God woke me up, because now I'm more wise to the fact than ever that you have to ask your partner, especially a potential parent, questions. And, you know, it's just, if you link up with the wrong person, you're going to have two choices. Either you're going to put yourself through that, suffer the consequence, and just put yourself through it, or you can choose to correct your mistake and remove yourself from the situation. Now, I could have stayed with my child's father and gotten married and lived happily ever after. At least that's what people think, right? Because they think as long as you're staying with the paternal parent for your child, that you're winning, and you're not always winning. You know, it's hard enough to know, you know, somebody put you through something, like your ex, you know, stabbed you in the back, or your ex was disloyal to you, or your ex talked about you or cheated on you and all this other stuff. It's hard enough to accept the fact that your ex did that stuff, but to have to relive that every time you see your ex is torture. Putting yourself through that mental torture every day is something that I cannot do. I can't do it. I tried to do it. I tried to stay together for my son. And after I tried to stay together for my son, I tried to stay in the same area to co-parent for my son, because what I wanted more than anything, I told y'all growing up, is a family, a real true family, a healthy family, a family filled with love and growth and success and prosperity, and people, and we have the ability to lead by example. That's the type of family I've always wanted. And my partners, every partner I've had knows that about me. And I think a lot of them took advantage of that, and my child's father was no different. So he would not give me the family dynamic I wanted until I was done. All of a sudden, when I'm done, you want to give me exactly what I wanted. But this is my thing. Why put me through all of these years of not giving me what I want, even though you secretly want the same thing, and expect me to stay? It just doesn't make any sense. So let me get into co-parenting. So after me and my son's dad, we finally broke up. After, like, I gave him 6 years of my time. And ladies, especially if you're in your younger 20s, like, you have to watch who you give your time to, because you can wake up and you'll be 30 and unmarried because you wasted time on a man that you knew you didn't want to be your husband in the first place. Like I always now I could see husband material versus non-husband material immediately. Just like a guy can categorize us when they meet us, I can categorize a man when I meet him, and I know where I'm going to be putting him. And my son's dad, once I started, awakening spiritually, because when you have a kid in your life, kids force you to see the truth because they're innocent, they're honest. I mean, my son, he lied a little bit, but I know when you have a kid, it's a 50-50 chance that they're going to turn out like their father or like you. So, he gets stuff like that from his dad, but ultimately he is pure, he's honest, and he's innocent, at the end of the day. Fear he's still learning and working through fear. So with fear, he'll lie a little bit because he's scared of what's going to happen, because he's a kid. But when you have that kid and you're forced to face the truth of your reality, you can choose to continue lying to yourself about what you're sitting in, about the situation you have yourself in, or you can choose to be like, oh my God, I've made a mistake. I see my mistake, and I want to make better decisions from here on out. A better decision is not staying in a toxic relationship. It's not staying in a toxic relationship for your child, or a toxic environment or situation for your kid. That's not a healthy decision. God doesn't want us to suffer. He doesn't. God does not want us to suffer. He wants us to repent, for our sins, and he wants us to, make better choices from here on out because we have the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding and the lesson from what we went through. My son's dad, he tried to get back with me a couple of times, and I just, the peace that I get when I'm single is insurmountable to the peace that I get in a relationship. I don't get any peace in a relationship. I haven't ever really gotten any peace in a relationship. I mean, stuff be cool for like a little bit, but constant peace, I haven't been able to get. And I know every relationship is not perfect, but certain things should be deal breakers in your relationship. So things get physical. That should be a deal breaker for you. I grew up watching my parents get physical, and there's a few times my mom would be unalive right now. You understand? So just reliving that as an adult, it's like you be in that situation that you saw your parent in as an adult is scary, it's freaky, and you have to make the best decision for you, because if you do not take care of yourself, you are unable to take care of your child, right? So I had to take screenshots, and I had to just write down, journal out stuff that happened to me in that relationship, just as a reminder that this is where I came from. I don't want to ever forget the negative in that relationship, because if I forget the negative and I try to only remember the positive, I'm going to go back, and I can't do that. I've come too far. So when it comes to moving your child away from their father, again, it's about the child's development, right? If the other parent, say you're the custodial parent, if the non-custodial parent is not healthy for your child, like the child sees them doing nothing, the child doesn't see them progressing, the child sees them in bad environments, they're telling the child the wrong things to do, they're leading the child down the same path that they're on, that's when you want to kind of get involved, because at the end of the day, somebody has to care about the child. The parent who cares least is going to be is going to be less involved with the child. The parent who cares the most is going to have the child most of the time, because if the other parent cared about the child as much as they claim to, they would have gotten their act together to maintain a relationship with you, to be in the same household as a child. So I don't want to make a mistake about that. People choose to not be who you want them to be or need them to be in a relationship. So anybody that you leave for the sake of your children, or anybody you have a child with that you leave, they are fully aware, and y'all heard that beat? They are fully aware that, their behavior can result in you leaving with the child, okay? But they're willing to take the risk. So don't confuse their behavior. They're willing to take the risk. just to say, because they know you're gonna leave, just to say that you left with their child. Okay, so don't let that guilt get to you, because they knew what could happen. They knew about a possibility of it happening anyway. Okay, because they know that they are not doing what it takes to maintain a relationship with you to keep you in the same house with the child. So at the end of the day, people want their freedom, and they won't say that they want their freedom, but their actions will tell you. So a man who acts like he wants to be, a man who says he wants to be in a relationship, but he's always in the streets, he's talking to other women, he's dating other women, he's sleeping around, he's not showing you any attention, he's not being loyal to you, he's not being resourceful to you, he's not providing for you. These types of things, if a man does not do these things, he knows that it's not going to work with you. He knows it. He can hope and believe that his manipulation will last on you, but come on, at the end of the day, people think they're smarter than they are, and they're not. Y'all are not real wizards out here. God is going to expose everything. It's up to you to listen to what God is telling you. I had the same fear about separating my son and my son's dad. I just always was like, man, I want a family. I don't want him to grow up without a dad. I don't want him to grow up in a single parent household, because I didn't grow up like that. But I had to start looking at it like, I remember the 2-parent household I grew up in. It was unhealthy. It was toxic. It caused me to do toxic things and create toxic cycles for years after leaving, because I was secretly traumatized from what I lived through growing up. And I didn't want my child to experience the same thing for the sake of saying he has his mom and dad in the home. Just because you guys want the kid to say that, like, that's what people want. It's so sad that people really want to be able to say that. They think they're superior because they have 2 parents, or they created a 2-parent household, or they had 2 parents in the household. Like, I had 2 parents in the household too. It wasn't a flex for me. It wasn't a flex. So it's about having the right individuals in the household. If the 2 people that are in the household raising the child together are not healthy, healed people, it's not going to be conducive to the child's growth. So I had to remember where I came from, how I grew up, and what cycle I was putting myself through. I had to look at my environment and see that I was in the same situation that I saw growing up. Roles reversed. I was just my mom. That's how I felt. I'm like, I'm my mom right now. So the moving was kind of a no-brainer for me, because at the end of the day, I have to take care of myself first. So a lot of the times when you in these relationships with your child's father, the child's father is not done with you. A lot of people can act like the baby daddy don't want the baby mama, and sometimes that may be true, but not in my case. Like, my son's dad wanted me, okay, wanted to be with me, wanted to marry me. He acted like he wanted these things. So after we broke up, I would experience constant harassment, whether it be on the phone, or whether it be during the times where we would have to interact when dropping the kid off, or, passing the kid along to each other, between each other. I would experience constant harassment, physical harassment, verbal harassment. Like, I was constantly being harassed, and it made me so uncomfortable. It's bad enough that you got to see somebody who did certain things to you that you really, 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 really feel tried about. You understand? It's like bad enough. It's like, okay, yeah, you break up with somebody and they did something to you, but it's good because you don't got to see them. But imagine having to see them every day because you got to drop the kid off to them or something like that. Imagine having to talk to them. You understand? Imagine that. And imagine they're still hitting on you, physically hitting on you, like touching on you. Like, it's so uncomfortable, and no woman should have to put themselves through that. So that's a reason that I made a decision to move. I was tired of putting myself in an uncomfortable situation just for the sake of saying my son and his dad are close to each other. My son's dad was already living about an hour away from me, so it wasn't like he was in the same city at the time. He moved further out. So I'm like, well, you know what? You move further out. Why can't I do the same thing? It's at the end of the day, it's my life as well. You understand? If things become too much for me to handle, I know God will send in some relief. At the end of the day, I know that God will never give me more than I can handle. A lot of people put themselves under unnecessary stress and pressure when they have the child by themselves instead of working smarter, not harder. So, for instance, I homeschool my son, so I don't have to worry about waking up and taking him into the school and, you know, picking them up after school and stuff like that, or meeting with the teacher and having things for school and all this other stuff. Like, I don't have to worry about that because the homeschooling system is something you create in your home. So you're going to customize that. It makes it 10 times easier on me, so I don't have to worry about my child picking up something at school, like some behaviors or words or something like that, or experiences or trauma or something, and then having to bring it home and me having to deal with it. I had myself and my son in a controlled environment. I was really worried about their relationship, though. I wanted to, you know, make sure, like, my son didn't, first of all, he's not going to blame me when he grows up for separating him and his dad, and that he's not going to be acting out or something because his dad is not around as much as he was before, you know. But my son surprisingly has taken it very, very well. Not that I expected him to take it badly, but my son's dad has definitely, you know, changed up his communication since, you know, we moved in. And that's a risk I was willing to take. You know, I thought for sure he would make more of an effort to, you know, still keep in touch with his son, or, you know, to maintain a relationship with his son. But I think most men look at it as, if you move with a child or leave with a child, that means you want to be a single parent, when that couldn't be further from the truth. You know, it's not that I want to be a single parent, it's I'm forced to. You understand? When you move, because again, he lived an hour away from me already, right? So he already wasn't talking to the child if the child was always with me. The only time he talks to the child is when the child is with him. So it's something that was already happening. So when I moved here, you know, it's even worse now. It's like you don't get them and you don't call them. So, you know, it's just that I don't really get a break. But other than that, I don't really care about that, because at the end of the day, you have to explain to your child why you didn't call them for this amount of time. You know, that's something that you're going to have to deal with. And the older my child gets, the more aware he'll become, of course, and the more he'll see you for who you are. So I'm not going to worry about, I don't call and be blowing him up. So, you know, some women be like, you ain't called your child in months, you ain't did this, and that, and blank on a man. But that's what he wants you to do. He wants you to reach out to him. It's like a power move. It's like a tactic that narcissists do, you know. So especially, you know, men who are trying to control the child's mother. Because I watched my dad doing this growing up. So like anything a man be trying to do, like I done seen it growing up, really. So they can't really get over on me. I may allow you to think that you've gotten over on me, but it never happens. I'm always really 2 steps ahead of you. You can't let the left hand know what the right hand doing. So, you know, he wants me to call him and blow him up to talk about money, or to talk about you not calling your child, but that's not my business. If that's the choice you want to make, to, you know, be absent as a parent because I moved to another state, you know, that's you. I keep an open line of communication, though, so I do want to give you that piece of advice. Like, my son has an iPad, so they could FaceTime, but his dad doesn't FaceTime him, and again, that's on him. I just told my son, you know, if you want to call him, you can call him, but he's like, no, he want to wait, so that's on him. And I also got my son a smartwatch on his own plan, so he can call anytime he wants, and, you know, his dad has both the numbers, so them not communicating is really not on me. I'm not the middleman. You understand? I've opened that line of communication between them two, and they can do whatever. I've already opened an invitation to where if you want to fly here to get them, you could do that anytime. You know, we did that a few times, but that stopped. I haven't. And I can't go into too much detail about what's happening, why I think this is happening, but I'll tell y'all in a couple months. But you know, it's just, at the end of the day, man, it's your child's life. We all had our journey growing up. Some of us had both parents in the household. Some of us didn't. Some of us, you know, had to live with our grandma. Some of us was in foster care. Some of us was adopted. Like, you know, everybody has their own journey growing up. Don't get too stuck on what it looks like to your child. You need to let them get stuck on what it is. You understand? Like, so if their journey is to grow up with their dad in a different state, that's their journey. They're going to be able to deal with it. And everything is not permanent. You understand? So it could be a temporary move, you know, or if it becomes too much for you, y'all can always discuss him taking the kid or something like that. Because my son's dad, he did that with one of his other kids. He didn't offer it to me, but one of his other kids, he had offered to take him when their mom moved out of state one time. So it's like, and I don't want to get too much into her business, but it's a cycle with him. You know, all of his son's mothers, they always relocate on him. And I think that's a lesson he has to learn. and I'm not sure if he's learned it yet. But you know, I think a lot of men who are who have issues, a lot of men who have issues being a father is because their father wasn't as present in their life. I don't have an issue being a parent because I saw both parents in the home. I know exactly what to do. I saw my dad and my mom, so I have to be a dad and a mom to my son right now, and that's it's easier said than done, but it's not as hard as people make it seem. Like, you know, as long as you take care of yourself first, you have to be in your right mind to raise a child, period, point blank. Because people, that's why you be seeing people kill these kids, beat these kids to death and stuff like that. It's because they are not taking care of themselves. You have to mentally be sound to have another human being mentally sound. I saw my homeboy came into town the other day, and he's married, and his wife had a child before him, but they've had 4 kids since. So I was talking to her. I was like, yo, you have to be super organized to have this many kids. She's like, girl, I done lost my mind. I'm like, what? She's like, yes, girl. I don't even know where my mind is right now. She's like, I've lost it. She's like, I got to keep up with this many people and my husband. So it's like, you know, God won't give you more than you can handle. So I understand it. This time, I'm only meant to have 1 child. That's all I could do right now. Clearly, I cannot handle a man right now and more children and all this other stuff. So that'll come to me when it's supposed to come to me. But honestly, moving was one of the best decisions I've made in a long time because it has allowed me to get my peace back. I don't have to see my ex every day anymore. I don't have my ex touching on me, trying to kiss me, trying to hug me when he comes in my house. I don't have to see my ex in my house anymore. I don't have to talk to my ex. Like, it is a blessing. It's a blessing. I didn't know could be this peaceful, for real. So I'm not going to act like it's a bad thing. I just want you to make the best decision for you. You have to think about yourself. I don't know what kind of situation you may be in, but choosing to be a single parent is just that. It's a choice. It's not a permanent choice. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of men out here who want to be stepdads. There's a lot of men out here who want to have kids and who don't want to have their own baby just yet, and they're willing to take care of yours for the meantime. So don't get discouraged or think that it's a permanent thing. It's not a permanent thing. I know when it's time to have a baby, and I know when it's time to have my family, the Lord will send my family in. He will definitely do it for me. It's just not time for me right now. You know, I spent, like I told y'all, 6 years, from 20 to 26, I spent with my child's dad. So I'm focused on this toxic relationship for 6 years. I have a lot of time to make up for it. You understand? So I hope you guys got something from my message today. You know, at the end of the day, consult God and make the best decision for you. At the end of the day, if a decision is not working out for you, you can always make another decision. Pivot. People be scared to fail. Try it. Trust in the Lord. Faith without works is dead, so take some action. You know, make the move that you want to make, the move that you think is best for your future family, not the family you see right now. You understand? At the end of the day, you all have to have a vision for how you want your future to go, how you want things to be set up, and start taking action. If you start, and this is how you do the vision, you start with the ending point and you work your way up, but backwards, if that makes sense. So you have to know you have to know the destination and then fill in these key little points in the middle of the destination where you would make your little pit stops at. You understand? These mini goals to get to the bigger goal. But it's all about what you want for your future. What you want wants you to. But you have to set yourself up for it. Okay? So if you're not growing in the place that you're in, that's how you know you shouldn't be there. You understand me? If you're not being successful, if you're not being productive in your environment, if you are not being mentally healthy in your environment, if you're not being a good parent, because that's how you know, like, you're not in the right place as well. You can't really be a good parent to your child. You understand? I heard a quote that said, you know that you are a good parent when your child wants to be just like you. Just like you. I don't have a daughter yet for that to happen, but my son tells me every single day how awesome he thinks I am, and that's enough for me. Because at the end of the day, you know, we all want the family we never had. We all do. Everybody. We want the family that we never had, and we have to make the steps that are necessary in order to get it. Period. Yeah, I have to sacrifice right now. Right now, I have to sacrifice a family unit in the home, but at least I'm not in a toxic family unit in the home right now. I have to sacrifice the family unit, but at least I'm not in a toxic situation right now. So yeah, it's really about sacrifice. Stop thinking about what it looks like and talk about what it is. You know, people can't judge you for your decisions because it's your life. So who cares what they think? Who cares if somebody gets mad or they think you're making the wrong decision by separating these two people who shouldn't be together right now anyway? I told my son's dad, I told him, I'm like, you know, take this time to work on yourself. You've been doing this for so long. You know, you've been focused on these things for so long. You're almost 40. Take the time to focus on yourself. I'm giving you that. Take this time. Focus on yourself. He took it as, I'm not going to be a dad, I guess. I don't know. But, you know, people can only, people can only duplicate what they've seen. You understand? So if he's never seen a healthy example for a dad, how can he be? You understand? We all need the proper guidance. You know, I think a lot of people are scared of what people are going to think about them. I know for the longest I struggled with the thought of being a single parent. I'm like, I can't be a single parent, man. I can't do that. That's not how my mom did it. She stuck it out. She stayed with my dad, you know, no matter what. She stayed because she stayed until she literally couldn't stay anymore. But she stayed throughout our childhood until we was 18. She really stayed to raise us. So I'm like, I can't just be a single parent out here. They're going to talk about me. They're going to talk about how I got a baby daddy. Like, it's so many things that I told myself I would hear.
I was just throwing stuff away.
Okay, close the door. Close your door. You know, I was told, you know, so many things that, oh, even my child would be mad at me for this, you know, for separating him and his dad, for even leaving the home. I was told so many things about making that decision to be a single parent. I was told I wasn't going to find love. I was told I wasn't going to find another dad for my son. I was told, you know, it's going to cause my son to grow up in a negative way. I was told so many things, you know, so many fears are being put into my head by the enemy, you know, through the mouths of the people that I knew. And, you know, a lot of people were saying to me that I should stay with him. You know, he's buying me anything I want. You know, he'll do anything I want. Whenever I snap my fingers, he'll do everything but what I need him to do. You know, you can't put a price on loyalty. At the end of the day, you can't put a price on trust, you know, on friendship. You can't put a price on, you know, a spiritual union. You can't put a price on, you know, healthy relationships, healthy boundaries, just having a real ride or die partner, somebody who will really sacrifice for you. You know, you can't put a price on those things. Those things is what I'm really looking for. Every man doesn't possess that, you know, and unfortunately he wasn't willing to give me what I truly needed. You know, I think a lot of people look at me and they think that I'm, you know, superficial, I'm stuck up. I don't get that. I hear people say that. I'm materialistic and a lot of things, but the truth is the stuff that I really require from a man, it costs no money. It doesn't even cost any money. And of course, I like my bills paid and I like to take nice trips and I like to get nice gifts and stuff. But the stuff I really, really require is free. It costs nothing. What I need really costs nothing. So, you know, once I took that into consideration, I just had to make the hardest decision of my life. So having to leave my son's dad, like really choosing to do that, it took me years. My son, I believe, was 3. It took me years, and it was literally, I was about to move in with him again. We had already tried it once. It went horribly, and I was about to do it again, but we got into an argument the night before, and that was God, and I knew he was giving me a way out. I knew he was, and I never looked back. We didn't move in together. I went into the house by myself, and I was just thanking God it went the way that it did because, you know, I could be dead. You get what I'm saying? This is life or death. You know, at the end of the day, that's what I'm thinking, like, what good am I to my son if I'm not alive? What good am I to my son if I'm not healthy? What good am I to my son if I'm not happy? What good am I? And at the end of the day, our kids, they are not going to understand the decisions that we make for them until they have kids of their own. They're kids for a reason. We are the parents for a reason. God will never give us more than we can handle. He blessed us with children, meaning he saw that we are able to raise kings and raise queens. That's what he saw. He saw it in us. He knew that we would be the right people for the job. All we have to do is accept the calling. I accepted the call in my life to be an amazing parent. I think my son when he gets older, I know he is going to look for a woman just like me. I know he is. And when he sees what I'm going to do next, or where I'm going to take our lives, when he sees that for real, when he really sees the sacrifice that I made, when he gets old enough to really understand, he's going to, you know, I'm telling you, he's going to choose a woman just like me. He already talks about it. He's going to choose a woman just like me. So that's all I can ask for. A child who genuinely loves me for me, and who even though he doesn't understand my situation, or he doesn't understand the decisions that I make for him, he still supports me. He supports every decision I make, and he trusts me. He believes that I would never steer him wrong, and I'm not going to steer him or myself wrong. So you have to make these hard decisions. This is what life is all about. God has us, you know, make these videos for a reason. You think people on YouTube making videos telling their business, you know, just to tell their business? Like, no, it's for everybody to take something from it. So if you have a fear of being called a single parent, or you have a fear of being of being ridiculed for decisions that you make, don't fear anything but God. That's the only person who you should be fearing, whose judgment you should fear, is God. You know, we don't even fear God, but we fear what other people are going to say or think about us. You hear that siren? It's just important to, you know, make the best decisions for us, and to get with God and make them. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. So it doesn't matter who's absent at the end of the day, because God is present. Okay? I hope you got something from my message today. If you did, make sure you check out some of my other messages. And I will see you in the next video. Janique here, Janique TV. Peace.